Welcome to SethCraft. Today I am building a CNC enclosure. This is to fit the Shapeoko Pro XXL, but the concepts here I imagine will work well for whatever size CNC you're looking to build an enclosure for. So this model has a solid stationary back, but the front has a slide that you just saw, and the door opens up this way. So if you're interested in learning how I built this, then continue watching. To get started with this enclosure build for the CNC machine, I've got a tape measure. I've taken a few measurements here of the machine. So from back to front, I need a 48-inch enclosure. And then from side to side, with the power boxes on the side over here, I have found that 53 inches is what I need. And for height, I believe with the way I'm going to cut my material, I think that 23 inches will be sufficient there. So this is the sliding design, so I will be able to slide back the front half and access the cut surface here without having to duck down and get in there. So as far as other components go, I've got a corded LED light. I've got a couple of drawer slides. I believe these will go out 19 inches. And so I've got two of those. I actually have another one up top in my other shop if I need one for sliding on the top up here. We'll see. I've also got a 24-inch by 36-inch piece of plexiglass for the two windows I'm going to build. And if I need them, I've got some little roller wheels which will allow the front slide to move easily. So we'll see if we get to needing those wheels. Alright, for materials, I've got a full sheet of 3/4-inch plywood, and I also have a half sheet that I'm going to be using to cut out my material. And I also have a 1/2-inch piece of plywood in case I need to use that for the front door and the back of the enclosure. So we'll see. All right, let's go ahead and get to work cutting the pieces out to start this build. To begin with my cuts, I'm going to work on the sides of the enclosure. I've got a 3/4-inch piece of plywood that is 4 foot by 4 foot, and I'm going to be cutting out a few different things here. So first of all, I want a 23-inch by 29-inch. So let's go ahead and work on that. So let's go over here and get 29 inches. I want to go up 23. I now have two panels that are 23 by 29, and that leaves 19 inches over here, and then to be 24 inches here. So I essentially use the entire 4x4 sheet except for this little strip right in here. So I feel like it's a pretty good deal not to have much waste in this piece. So, hey, Seth from the future here. So as I'm building this, I want you to stay tuned to the end of the video because I have created a product that I have for sale. This will allow my dust collection system to pass through my enclosure. And so basically one side of my shop vac hose will go on this, and then it passes through, and then it has, yeah, that's loud, a flange that allows this adapter to be screwed onto the outside of the enclosure. There we go. And so anyway, I'll have those for sale, but you'll see this installed here in just a bit. Okay, back to the video. I now have the sides cut for both the front and back section. It's time to now move on to the top for both the front and the back. So I've got my 4 foot by 8 foot sheet of plywood, and here are the cuts that I need. One of them is 19 inches by 56 1/8, and that's going to be the front portion. So what I need to do is find 19 inches in this direction, and I can mark that. Now, if you look at it this way, the 29 inches meets up to that same point, and so that line essentially is the same for the front and back here. So the things I need to look at are the 56 1/8 length and then 54 1/2 length. Now is where the real fun begins. I have one of the smaller side panels which goes in the front, and I want to have a window cut out here for some plexiglass. So the first thing I've done is marked out where my drawer slide will go. So I've kind of got that here on this spot. And to do that, I just came up 1.5 inches and then measured out how big I wanted that to be routed out and marked it. So the next thing I want to do is put in the window here for my plexiglass. So I showed you that plexi there at the beginning. It's a 1/4 inch plexiglass. So what I'd like to do is from the top move down 3¼ inch. So come down 3¼ and from the side I want to do 2½ inch. And basically by doing that I'm going to have a 14 inch by 14 inch plexiglass window that I can look through to see how my machine is doing. I now have my 14 by 14 window prepared. I'm going to use the saw to plunge cut in there and cut that out. And then I'll have to take my router and route out enough to get that plexiglass set in there. So for now, I'm just getting the basic shape cut out. I have the plunger on my router set to a little over 1/4 inch. And that should allow me to get this routed out. I'm going to do this by hand because it doesn't have to be perfect. It's on the inside of the machine. And I'm just going to do a 1/2 inch all the way around. And that'll make my plexiglass piece 15 inch by 15 inch approximately. I finished routing out this side of the window, and that is deep enough that it should let the plexiglass sit in here and also have a screw on top, because when I go to slide this back into the other section, I want to make sure that screw is not going to be hitting. So hopefully it is good enough. Now, when it comes down here to where the drawer slide is going to be, I also need to route out this a little bit because I want my two pieces to be fairly close to one another to prevent dust and sound from escaping. I may still end up putting a little sweep to help keep the sound and dust down. But for now, I want to take approximately half of this width right here and go down into this wood, and then the other side will be on the back of the door. So anyway, it'll make sense here in just a moment, but for now, I just want to take half of this and then route that down into this space. I just finished using the router to cut out in here. So I've got this at 1/4 inch so I can put that slide in there. And I found this to be right at half. So yeah, that should fit in there perfectly. And then I went a little bit deeper than a 1/4 inch on this. And that's because I thought, well, maybe the screws need to also be poking up in there. So all right, the next step is to go cut out the plexiglass that will fit inside of here. So I want a 15 inch by 15 inch square, and then I also want to put several little holes in that plexiglass in order for the screws to go in here as well. So let's head over to the laser and do that. Now, I understand that most people probably aren't going to have a laser like this, so good luck with however you're going to be cutting your plexiglass. Whether that be with a saw or using drill bits to cut into that. You may want to consider finding a piece of plexiglass that's already the size of the window that you want, so you don't even have to cut it. So, all right, let's head over to the laser. This is the Thunder Laser Nova 35. It's a CO2 laser that can cut acrylic really well. I've got my 24 by 36 inch acrylic set in here, and I've got the pointer right up there, and it's ready to start this cut. So let me show you what the file looks like here. Maybe you can see it. Basically, it's a square, but it has 8 4mm holes around here, and that hopefully is enough to keep this within the enclosure that we're building. So let me go ahead and do a frame to make sure we are in the right spot. It should move out 15 inches and then 15 down. All right, good. We get one shot at this, so hopefully it works. From what I can see, a speed of 10mm millimeters per second at a power of 60 is sufficient to get this cut. To be honest, almost everything I do with this laser is with wood, so let's see how it did with plexiglass. I guess I will hold it still in case it didn't cut. Well, yep, okay, we're through. Awesome. All right, let me pull this out and we will see if it fits in the place that we want it to. Okay, let's see how we did here. If I place this down in here, very nice. Plenty of tolerance and looks great. So I've got these very small screws. I'm going to get these installed here. Shouldn't be much of an issue. I finished using the router to put the grooves into all 4 of the side pieces as well as the top so that I'll be able to put those drawer slides in here to move the front section back and forth. So I actually made one mistake and I cut the groove down here when it was supposed to be over here, but I corrected that. All right, now I'm going to be using the Kreg pocket hole jig. It's the little one right here, and I'm going to be putting pocket holes in the wood so that I can screw the side pieces into the top pieces and make it look seamless on the outside. So let me show you how that's done real quick. You can get the Kreg pocket hole jig in either this small block as you see right here or the big ones that do 3 holes at once. But what I'm going to do here is take this and place it right here on the edge. This is going to allow a very controlled hole that will go into the wood so that I can use screws to put along this edge, and it just makes it real clean and crisp. So let me go ahead and get this attached right here. I'll try to have a link to this in the description below if you want to check it out. The bit that's used for this is also very specific. I've got it stopped here so that it will have the right hole. So anyway, just going to go in here and drill several of these along the top edge. So whenever I pull this off, there we go. It's got a nice clean hole right there. Now, this is going to be on the inside of the enclosure, and so it won't ever really be seen. I just finished putting all the pocket holes into each piece. I've got 6 on these sides here. Hopefully that's sufficient to keep this piece together. If not, I'll add more or even add some wood glue if I need to. So as far as putting this together, I've got the top of the front slider and the 2 sides, and I've got it facing backwards because when I flip this over, I want these of course to be down and this to be on the top. So let's go ahead and put this together by holding this up and then putting the pocket hole screws in here. I probably could use a clamp to keep this in place, but I'm just going to try to hold it by hand and hopefully it's going to work out. I set that piece up here on top to see what it would look like. I probably could have gone a little bit less on that side over there, but you know what? Gives a little extra room to work with. Very nice. I think the height's going to be good for the shop vac hose, and also this window I believe is going to have a lot of static on that, but yeah, very good. I'll be able to see in there. I'll also have the door on the front that will pull up and out. We'll have a window on it as well. Very cool. All right, now on to the next section, which is the back side. Right here, I have the top of the back section, and you'll see my groove is here on the top. It actually is going to be this way when it's installed, so I want to flip this over and put the sides on this down side right here. So let me go ahead and flip that. Yeah. Okay. And so when this is flipped up, it will be in the correct orientation. Okay, so for instance, this is going to be the top left side here, and this one is the top right side. I just got both the sides and the lid done for the back. Let me go ahead and flip this over and see if I can get it into position here. And it seems as though the 7 pocket hole screws are enough. We'll know, I guess, more in the future if it's going to work out well. So, all right, let's see what we got here. There we go. I also have to get back there to put the back on as well, but we'll just get this into position and see how it does here. Well, that's looking so cool, except I made one little mistake, which I can still work with here. So this groove is correct in here, but this one back here was supposed to be on the other side facing that. However, no, I still think I'm gonna have to swap this around. Let's see. Yep, I'm gonna have to swap it there. Basically I put my pocket holes on the wrong side. They should have been on the other side, which means I will have visible pocket holes here on the outside, but you know what? It's still gonna be functional. I could always put some dowels in there and cut it off later if I need to. But okay, and also there's a bit of a gap right there, which I'll just put a little a strip under there to keep it from having dust and sound go through. But as far as this gap goes, yeah, I don't know, that's a pretty good gap up there as well. All right, well, we'll see what I can do about that. I flipped the left and right sides so that they have the track in the right position to meet up with the front of this enclosure. And I also found a piece of 1/2-inch plywood that's going to be perfect for the back. I have to make a couple little cuts here and use pocket hole screws again, and this I think will fit very nicely into that side. So let me go ahead and do that without you, and then we will work on getting the drawer slides and get this thing operational. In order to connect the back and front sections of this enclosure, I'm going to be using drawer slides. Now these are able to separate here, so I pull it all the way out and there's a tab I can press all the way and remove this piece. That's going to go on the front. So this piece is going to go on the back. What I want to do is line this up here with the edge of the front of the back portion here, and I found one of my wrenches for this machine is a good spacing, and so I'm using that for the height here. It's kind of arbitrary, but that's what I found to work. And then I'm going to line up these screws down here and get this attached. Now that I have that connected, it's time to put this bar back in, and it will just snap together, and there we go. That's the drawer slide. Now it's time to connect the front to this right here, but we got to do a couple of things to it first. I set the front section back here on the table, and I've got it flush with the front. I'm going to use those 2 wrenches from my machine to basically lift this up off the table, and that will hopefully give me enough room to slide this back and forth. And I'm also going to have a wheel or 2 on here to give it better rolling power. But anyway, that should give it a good spacing off of the surface. Let's go ahead and get the drawer slide attached over here. Now that I have that spacing down there, I can take my screws and once again just get these installed here. I got hyper focused and forgot to record a couple things, but let me show you what I've got so far. I've got the back and the front installed with all 3 of the drawer slides, and I've even put some little wheels on the front to help it slide better. So you can see right here, it does slide back pretty easy. It gives me plenty of access to get in here, and then if I were to pull this out, of course it comes out here as well. So let me bring you in close so you can see what's going on. Here are the wheels that I put on the front side of this, and that allows it to slide quite easily, as you can see. To get the spacing for those wheels, I just used my wrenches and put them up under here, and it lifted it up by that amount. And as you can see, I also have the drawer slides installed. There's one on both sides, and then I also have one up here as well on the middle. Okay, now that we have all this done, it's time to move on to the front door. Now, the parts They're going to be built out of the remaining sheet of plywood here. And I'm going to have a 20 by 24 inch window on the front so that it can be viewed from out here. My front door needs to be 24 inches by 56, and I only have 48 inches to work with here on this plywood. And so I'm going to be cutting this down into sections that I will piece together. And actually the window, the plexi that I have left is 20 by 24. So I'm actually going to make the middle window 19 by 23 to give me room to route in and put screws into that plexi. So what we want here is essentially to have two pieces that are 24 inches by 16.5, and then two strips that are going to be on the top and bottom, and they will be 23 inch by 2.5 inch. So let me get those marked out and we'll cut them out of this plywood. I have the pieces of the door cut now, which means this right here should be 24 3/4 inch, which it is there. And then this way, hopefully, is 56 inch, and it is. I may be a slight bit off on both of those, but close enough. All right, so the area in here is going to be 19 inch by 23, which is good. So what I want to do is use my router to route out here and here, here, and here for that 20 by 24 inch plexi to fit into. Just like with the sides of the enclosure, I'm going to be using the pocket holes to keep the frame of the front door together. I'm going to put two on this side, and then the opposing side here will have one going that way. And I can put some wood glue in there if I need to, and if it's still not enough to keep this together, I could always put a small strip across here to help it as well. But for now, I'm going to try out the 3 pocket hole screws, and just going to take my little jig right here and get this put into place. There we go. So each of the attachment points will get a pocket hole. I just happened to have a pipe clamp that would span the entire 56 inches, so that was cool. It had like 1/4 of an inch to spare. All right, I'm going to be using the pocket hole screws here, and hopefully this is sufficient to hold this together. I've got all 12 of those pocket screws in, but I'm not sure that's quite enough. So I also cut these little strips of wood here that can bridge across. So let me flip this over and see what I think about this. It's close. Yeah, let's go ahead and put these strips in here, and that way we'll know for sure that this door is going to be nice and solid. So essentially what I was thinking is these little wooden strips will just span across here. I don't know, maybe it'll look kind of industrial, but basically I'm just going to attach them here with some screws and hold this in place. I believe those supports are going to do quite well. The door is nice and solid. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the film off of this plexiglass that I cut. This is the second half that was left over from earlier, and I think it's going to fit well in here, or at least I sure hope it does after I've done all this work. Okay, yep. As long as it looks nice from the other side, we are good to go. Oh, got that one close to the edge, didn't I? Okay, this is my first test fit. Let's see if it's gonna work. Okay, yeah, it's gonna be good. Now it's gonna be really close to the edge because of the dust boot on my CNC. But I think that's going to work out well. I'm going to have a light in there also to help see. So very cool. I may have to make a few modifications for keeping it dust proof or quiet in there, but yeah, I'm liking it so far. I purchased a pack of 3 hinges that are already a black color, and I've got them attached to the top of the front here of the CNC enclosure. And I've taken a piece of scrap, 3/4 inch, and placed it up under here. And so as you can see, that's essentially where the door is going to be here on the front. So hopefully I've got it at the right height. So let's go ahead and move the door over here and give it a try. Well, I believe I made my door a little bit too tall to have the hinges in this orientation. So let me flip them around and we'll use them in the other way. I ended up having to turn the hinges in this direction in order for this to work, but I think it worked out well. So I'll have to kind of find some way to put maybe a little bit of foam or something in this crack here to keep the sound and dust down, but for the most part, I'm happy with it. I do have a handle I'm going to put here next, but look at that. You can see inside of the CNC quite well, especially after I put the light in there. And yeah, looks good. That window is still so dirty. I'm going to go ahead and put this handle on here. I'll be able to lift up from here. The longer this CNC enclosure build has gone on, the less I have filmed, so I apologize for that. There are two last things that I want to do before I consider this to be complete. One of them is to put that pass-through that I showed you at the beginning of the video, and this will allow the dust collection hoses to pass through this, and I will have that for sale linked down below. And the very last thing I want to do is install this door sealant strip, and that's because there are some seams between the front section and the back section that I want to block off as well. After that, we will test out to see if this is quieter with the door closed versus with it open. I have this 2.5 inch hose, which is going to be used for collecting the dust, and that's going to attach right in here to the boot, and it'll have an attachment up here on the top, and then I need to have the hose go out this side over here so it can go down to the dust collection. So that being said, I need to put a hole right over here, somewhere in this area, to allow that pipe to go into, and then it'll come down here and into my dust collecting. So this piece that I have created, I've got the SethCraft shop built into the side there, but it's essentially a piece that will pass through and allow your hoses to connect to. I think I made this piece a little long, but to be honest, it'll give more room to attach to. So, okay, well, what I need is a 3-inch hole saw, and I'm just going to put it right there, and then this piece will attach and go, it'll mount flush like that with the screw holes, but it'll be right about there. As you can see, the pipe comes through the wall right there, and then over here it comes through this way. So I think I'm going to include this hardware in the kit because that's the perfect size. And then also I'm going to shrink this down by a 1/2 inch because that's just a little bit too long to get the hose attached to. But all right, very good. There is the dust collection hose passing through the enclosure. And the last thing I want to do is get that seam around the top right there covered by putting that door seal. So let me go ahead and grab that real quick. Now I probably wouldn't have to do it on the side because it's very close, but I believe I'm going to anyhow, just to keep those small seams from being visible. And I think there's still going to be plenty of air getting in here, but yeah, it's good. I like it. This drawer slide's going to get in the way from doing one solid piece, but let me just go close to it here. And I need a 26-inch strip on this side. I just finished adding those little seal strips on there, and it has closed up that gap quite nicely. There is still the ever slightest gap, but you know what? It's good enough. I'm sure it needs to have a little bit of air going in there at some point. All right, well, now that that is done, the enclosure is complete. Let's step back and take a look at everything. So starting off with the door, I can just grab up here and pull this down, and it will close quite nicely. I do have to pick it up ever so slightly on the end here to get it to close, but yeah, that's going to be good enough. So my table probably needed to have been another 2 or 3 inches longer than it is in order to get the door where it needs to be and not have a slight gap here at the bottom, but once again, it's fine. It's got the plexiglass on the front, the 3 hinges. I did add those extra supports there because I pieced this together, and I added a handle down here so that I could flip this up. All right, so that just rests on those 3 hinges like that. No worries. So let me bring you in closer so you can see everything else in action. On the inside, I got these 2 lights from Walmart. They've got white light or they've got yellow light, but I do have to currently reach under here to turn them on. But I think that's going to be good to be able to see the work whenever everything is closed up. Of course, I painted the inside white and the outside black, so hopefully it will reflect light in there well. But my thoughts are the camera will be in about this position right here, and we'll be able to see stuff if I ever decide to film in here. Now I do still have to connect the hose from the adapter over here up to the middle and then down to the boot there, but that'll be for a later time. I put wheels down here so it will roll whenever it's opened or closed. That's going to be helpful. It's got the drawer pulls there to allow it to slide back and forth. Of course, I got the window on this side as well, so you can see in there. Here's the other part of the drawer slides. I like this. I am going to have that available for sale. I'm going to cut this down by a 1/2 inch so it's not so long, and I will try to include the hardware as well. So anyway, just a good thing to have to pass that dust extraction through a wall like that. I got these installed just now. They're looking really good. Drawer pull in the middle. I'll show you how it slides in a bit to be able to access it. But looking back on it, I probably should have made this another, I don't know, 5 or 6 inches taller to have better clearance for that dust extraction. And honestly, yeah. So when the boot comes forward to do the bit depth there, it gets really close to the edge. So I may have to even pull this out a little bit further, which I could. It's got another maybe 1/4 inch or so, but it's close. Okay, so for the slide back test, so I can get in there and access the inside, it slides that way less easy than it slides out. So I do have to hold both sides here and push it in. The sound you're hearing is those rubber seal strips that I just put in because it's hitting the plywood. But if I use both sides, I can push this all the way to the end. And now I can easily access stuff in here a lot easier than if it were all the way out. So that's going to work well, I feel like. I honestly am going to be doing one project on this most of the time. And so hopefully I will just clip the piece in and pull this back out. And there may be times where I don't even have to do that. Just snap it in there and go. So, all right, very cool. Now let's go ahead and do a dB test to see what the sound difference is with this open versus closed. Now, I don't have the machine up and running yet, but I can at least turn the router on to hear that. So let's close this up. And we'll do a door open versus door closed test here to see what we get. I've plugged up the router so we can do this audio test, and I have my microphone facing the router. I also have a decimal reader here on my phone. So let me stop talking and we will get a bass level. Looks like around 28 is where we want. So, all right, let's go ahead and turn this on and see how loud it is, and then we will close it up and see how loud it is. And there you go. It does bring the sound down by several decibels. This will also help to prevent any pieces from flying off into the shop if a bit were to break. And it also helps reduce the dust in my building as well. Now, last thing I just thought about was I have several of these foam triangles for sound panels. I'm gonna install those real quick and then we'll do it one last test and then we will close out this video. I only brought down 3 of those panels, so I'll finish putting those up here later, but let's just see if it makes any difference to have those 3 installed. All right, there we have it. Building this enclosure was fun and it has multiple different purposes. It reduces the sound some, it prevents debris from entering the room, whether it be a broken bit or pieces of material flying off, and it also helps the dust reduction as well, and looks cool. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, and be sure to check out my through the wall pass-through for that dust collection system as well. I'll have a link to that down below. I'm Seth with the SethCraft shop, and I will see you in the next video.